And good morning, my beautiful America, my shining city on a hill. I'm Eden Gordon Hill, and welcome to the All American Book Club. You guys, I promised you a fantabulous fall and Christmas season, and I am bringing over to the show for the first time Matthew West. He is so well known when it comes to his beautiful Christmas music and also his Christian music. And the song that has just transcended across Great American Pure Flicks in all of our homes is Come Home for Christmas, and his brand new book out as we are featuring it here for our December All American Book Club. So please welcome to the show, Matthew West.
Well, you had me at fantabulous. Thank you so much.
Oh, I do that all the time. Some of the people I represent, full disclosure, they love when I use that word, so I had to say it.
I like it. I like it. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So the book Come Home for Christmas obviously is the foundation for the song behind Come Home for Christmas that came out a couple years ago. And
Yeah.
I heard it through Great American Pure Flicks and them airing it on every commercial. So share with us the inspiration behind the song first and then how the book came.
Absolutely. Candace Cameron has become a dear friend, and she and I'll send her. She always tells me that she loves my Christmas music, and so I'll send her my new Christmas songs. And actually, the way that wound up on Great American was she said, "Oh, I love this song. You need to send this to the head of Great American. They need a theme song." And sure enough, they picked up the song as the theme song, and I loved that so much. The heartbeat of this song is about the longing to return to the wonder, the joy, the peace, the love, and the hope, the way that Christmas feels when we're young. And yet somehow, we grow up and we feel like we grow out of the wonder and the magic of the Christmas season. I know for myself, I've felt that way many times. And I actually wrote this song during the pandemic where in a strange way, there was all this separation, all of this distance, and yet um, it was finding togetherness, finding community in the midst of a very challenging time, and learning what the power of home is during a time like that where we had nowhere else to go, right?
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
so the first verse really sums up the heartbeat of the song. How long has it been since you felt that feeling of wonder? And it basically poses this thought: what if the distance back to the way Christmas used to feel as a kid? What if it's not as long of a journey as you might think?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you this. When I was reading the beginning of your book, and you really talked about the memories of going to your grandmother's house and the memories of gathering around with all the family members. And you took so many of us during that time of COVID, post COVID, and then, as they are picking up your book and having the opportunity, but you took us to another spot, that
Yeah.
time in our family, that time in our American history when people actually gathered together. We weren't told you had to, during the COVID time period, you weren't allowed to cross your state boundaries or you weren't allowed to go X, Y, and Z. But you brought together that kitchen table visual of family gathering together, which is so powerful. And if you could share with our audience some of those snapshots of those memories of driving with your brothers and with your family to your grandmother's.
Absolutely. As I talk to you, my puppy is in the studio with me, which gives you all the Christmas feels, anyways. But I was worried he was going to start barking as you asked that last question. But yeah, I kind of like in the writing of the book, I just decided to travel back home in my memory and talk about driving. I would talk about the brutal Midwest winters that I grew up in, and I grew up in the Chicago suburbs. And I joke about how normally a family might seek warmer weather in the winter, like seek
Yeah,
the
yeah.
refuge of Florida or something. But we were gluttons for punishment, and we would make the trip even further north. We'd head to Iowa to visit my grandma West and talk about, one of my favorite images in the book that really brings me home to what Christmas is all about is I talk about a gift that my grandmother gave me.
Yes.
And now my grandmother raised 10 kids, 9 boys and 1 girl. That's crazy. That is crazy.
It
And
is.
in fact, they joke about how back in the day, they didn't have running water, and they would fill a bathtub, and all the kids would have to bathe in the same bathtub, and they would draw straws, and nobody wanted to be in the final round because you got out of that bathtub dirtier than when you got in. Is that gross? Is that a gross image for your listeners or what? But but there was a simplicity to that time. There was a beauty to that time. And my grandmother exemplified what the heart of Christmas is really all about. She never had much money. Obviously, when you're raising 10 kids, you got to make ends meet. Grandpa worked at a meat packing plant. When grandpa passed away, times were lean for grandma. Now, imagine having 10 kids and then they all have kids of their own. It's a great big family. Grandma had this modest little house in Mason City, Iowa. And I remember making that drive to freezing cold Mason City, Iowa to visit my grandma. And I remember a gift that my grandma gave me every year. And it was a Gerber baby food jar that she had emptied out and saved, and she filled it with 100 pennies. And she would wrap it up, and it was like this blunt object that jingled. And every year I knew it was going to be there under the tree. That and some socks, of course, right? And as a kid, I got to tell you, I did not appreciate what a special gift that was. In fact, it was underwhelming. Imagine being a kid where you want
Yeah.
video games, you want Air Jordans, you want a baseball bat, and
Right.
yet grandma, you knew, was going to give you a Gerber baby food jar filled with 100 pennies.
Yeah.
But looking back on that, I understand now what a sacrifice that was. Grandma was saving up throughout the year. She had so many grandkids to provide gifts for, and she wasn't about to let a single one of her grandkids go without knowing how much she loved and appreciated them. And so it became kind of a running annual thing where we looked forward to grandma's gift. And so I kind of centered around that when I wrote the book of
Yes.
like what that symbolized for me, the simplicity of coming home for Christmas and opening that simple gift. Fast forward several years after that, I remember the Christmas that I graduated from college, and I got another blunt object from grandma, and it was bigger this time, and I opened it up, and she had saved 30 silver dollars and put it in a jar for me, and that was her gift for me. And I'll never forget that. And so, when I think about the truest gifts at Christmas, and when I think about what Christmas is all about, I couldn't help but travel back to those own beautiful moments in my own story. And I wrote from that place in the hopes that people might receive that invitation to come home to the simplicity of Christmas, to
Yes.
the importance of giving gifts that matter, for the
Yeah.
importance of being present with the ones that we love, and just realizing what really matters this time of year.
Well, your book, as I had the opportunity to read it before all of my listeners, and what I felt was that it reminded me of my childhood. It reminded me of those amazing Christmases. And I want that for my audience. So when they go pick it up, they get to feel that warmth, that time of American history where all of us came together and there was,
Yeah.
that we're right here in the shining city on a hill, but there's so much this country is so divided in so many ways,
Yes.
but this book reminding us of how people came together no matter
Yes.
what,
Yeah.
honestly. And I want to say
Well,
something else. Oh, go ahead.
no, that's good. I love what you just said. And I love, like, throughout the entire book, it revisits the greatest story ever told, and that first Christmas, and
Yes.
the invitation that was issued to people of all walks of life, and how they all made their way, Joseph and Mary and the wise men, and the shepherds, and they all
Mhm.
made that journey to follow that star, and that togetherness that was found. And each chapter is an invitation to come home to different things that are really lacking in our society right now. Coming
Yes.
home to wonder, coming home to joy, coming home to healing. I mean, could we use
Mhm.
some healing right now?
Oh,
Coming home to
amen.
peace. I mean, peace seems like it's in short supply. Coming home to compassion, compassion for others, compassion for ourselves, coming home to forgiveness. And then the reminder that we find all of those things in the form of a baby lying in a manger at Christmas time. So I definitely feel like this book is an invitation to find some things that seem to be in short supply in our world right now.
Mhm. I was just sitting here thinking, as a military spouse slash veteran spouse now, our military community and our veteran community, especially our military families could use something like this because they're the ones that are told to hurry up and wait. And they're the ones that are called into the fire and called into whatever's
Gosh.
next ahead for our nation. And this, I think, would bring so much, like you said, the hope, the peace, that
Yeah.
joy, especially with all of those. I have friends who have husbands serving overseas and they may not be home for Christmas. So
Yes.
this is
I
an ideal opportunity.
Well, I love that you just brought that up because, man, around the holidays, I mean, how often do we take for granted those men and women who sacrifice everything, and then their families who sacrifice so much? And I think it's so important this time of year, especially for us to just express our gratitude for the families who have to be separated from their loved ones because their loved ones are laying it all on the line to protect the freedoms, that the privilege of freedoms that you and I enjoy. And I'm so thankful for that. And one of the things that I touch on in this book is the empty seat at the table.
Mhm.
And that's for the West family, that comes in the form of my uncle Jim. My dad's brother Jim was killed in Vietnam, and he paid the ultimate sacrifice, and the West family paid the ultimate sacrifice. And I think of that, and I think of how difficult Christmas must have been for my grandma. While she had a smile on her face, she's
Yeah.
thinking of the ones that she missed. And how many of us, military or otherwise, have
Yeah.
somebody that we wish was at the table with us, and we no longer get to see them, and we won't get to see them this side of heaven. And so it's a time of remembrance at Christmas. What does it look like to come home to joy in peace, even in the midst of grief? And how can God meet us in our lives, no matter what we're going through, no matter what grief we're facing, no matter who we're separated from? The promise of God's presence is
Mm,
such a necessary promise for us to cling to, because for so many people, Christmas is not a time of joy and
right.
peace and wonder. And it's a time where wounds are exposed, where healing feels too far away, where we're separated from our loved ones, where we're grieving. And so I really hoped that this book could be just a healing balm during a difficult time for so many.
Well, you preach it, brother. And on a lighter note, I will say to all my audience out there, they call you Mr. Christmas for a reason. And I had to switch it over because I'm going to sit here and bawl. Kathy Lee Gifford and I did an interview a couple weeks ago together,
I
and we
love her.
sat there and cried during
Yes.
the interview. I'm like, okay, I can't do this with you because I know I'm going to. So we're going to talk about Mr. Christmas, and I want to talk about Franklin and the Charles Dickens Christmas that they do in Franklin, Tennessee. Is that where you got the Mr. Christmas name, and is that how that all came to be?
Yeah, if you've never traveled to Middle Tennessee at Christmas time, you don't know what you're missing. But there's a beautiful, amazing town called Franklin, Tennessee, which I've been
Mm.
blessed to call home for many years. And in Franklin, Tennessee, they do Christmas right. It's like Mayberry. It's Pleasantville.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like a great American family Christmas movie all in one town. And I've had the honor of being the host of the Christmas tree lighting annually, where the mayor comes and we do a big countdown and we sing Christmas carols with thousands of people in the courtyard. It is magical. And so I get to host that every year. And I've released Christmas music throughout the years, and I've been known to put on a tuxedo and do my best Michael Bublé. They call me Matthew Bublé, but um, so Christmas music's just always been one of my favorite types of music to listen to throughout the year, and it's always been a natural extension of my artistry as a musician and a songwriter. I feel like every year I wind up writing a handful of Christmas songs. Years ago, I had a song that I wrote called "The Heart of Christmas" that was turned into a Christmas movie starring
Hmm.
Candace Cameron, and
Oh.
and I got to play a support role. I was the friendly neighbor. I'm pretty sure they didn't even give me a name, but it was a critically acclaimed performance. But so I've just always been passionate about Christmas music, and what a joy it is to get to retell the greatest story ever told, and now to get to do it with this book. So long story short, we started doing this weekend in Franklin, Tennessee, where I invite fans of my music to
Yeah.
come and spend the weekend with me. It's like a Christmas concert on steroids, but we get to have a Christmas dinner together. We get to sing carols together. They come to the Christmas tree lighting. We limit it to like 300 people every year. So it's a really intimate thing. And they get to hang out with the whole West family and get to experience Christmas in my favorite town. So That takes place annually in Franklin, Tennessee, and I think we only have a. Well, let's see. By the time this is airing, I think it'll all be sold out. But people
Yeah.
can find out how to come and join us next year.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's, in the final segment of this very fast interview, this has been so much fun with you, Matthew. Tell us, tell our audience as we head into 2025, what do you have on the horizon and where can we support you in addition to buying your book, in addition to supporting Don't Stop Praying, and just all the amazing work that you've been putting out this year?
Well, that's very kind of you. First of all, it's just such an honor to be able to share this Christmas message with your listeners and with you. I encourage you just to keep up the great work. You're a bright light, and our world needs that. And speaking of that, like I just feel a stirring now more than ever to be bold in my faith. I feel like we're living in a time where this world will applaud you for standing up for whatever it is you believe in, as long as it's not about Jesus. And I don't know about you, but that stirs something in me to go, I want to live my life unashamed of Jesus and what he's done in my life. And so every song I sing is a bold and maybe even a more bold message than ever before. Songs like Don't Stop Praying are really the heartbeat of what I'm about, encouraging people to know that there's a God who sees you, hears you, he knows you, he's chosen you, and he has a purpose for your life. And so I'm going to be on tour sending that message all across the world as much as I get the opportunity of singing these new songs off of the Don't Stop Praying album. I'm going to be probably releasing new Christmas music. I'm also working on some film ideas. So maybe Mr. Christmas will turn into some movies at some point. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Oh, I would
Maybe
love
I'll get
that.
to talk to you next year. We'll be promoting a movie. That could be cool.
Well, this month, we are bringing over, in addition to you kicking off December here at All American Book Club, Great American Pure Flicks, we're also bringing over some of their very powerful talent with all
Love
of the amazing Christmas movies that they
That's
filmed
awesome.
in Franklin, Tennessee. So
Oh, yes.
yeah. So we have a lot to look forward to here at the All American Book Club. But more importantly, it's like you said, for such a time as this is our time to be in the public square, to speak the truth, to speak about God, to speak about the love of God, and to really be convicted in our faith. It's a revival. It is revival time. And
Yeah.
we have got to not be afraid,
Yeah.
to speak boldly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've got a song coming out called, or that's already out called Unashamed. And it just says that message loud and clear, just in the hopes of, I feel like a lot of times when I'm doing my work the right way, people will share, hey, your book or your song gave me the words that I couldn't put together myself, but like, this is my anthem. You know what I mean? And so I just hope to keep providing music and books that can inspire people, point them closer to Jesus, and encourage them to be bold about their faith and to be a light in a dark world. And you're doing that, and thank you for the opportunity for me to share a bit of my story today.
Absolutely. Well, Matthew West, Mr. Christmas, thank you so much for joining the All American Book Club. We look forward to having you back because I know God has some amazing things in store. And for all of those who are tuning in here at the All American Book Club, stay tuned. We will be right back with our next segment.